Hey, welcome to Shift. I'm Elliot, and I'm so glad you're hanging out with me today. This is the place where we take those little keyboard shortcuts we use every day without thinking and turn them into big shifts for our lives, our growth, and our sanity. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever been mid-sentence, maybe arguing with a partner, or if you're like me, trying to convince a 3-year-old that pants are not optional, and suddenly you hear a voice coming out of your mouth, and you realize with a cold shiver, oh no, I've turned into my father? Or maybe it's a specific way you handle money or the way you shut down when things get stressful. You realize you're running a piece of software that was installed in your brain 30 years ago by people who were just doing their best, but maybe didn't have the latest updates. Today's shortcut is Ctrl plus H. On your computer, that's your history. And today we're talking about how to view it, how to audit it, and most importantly, how to clear the parts that are slowing you down. We're talking about breaking family cycles. So let's look at the tech for a second. When you're in Chrome or Safari and you hit Ctrl plus H, a sidebar or a new tab pops up. It's a chronological list of everywhere you've been. It shows the sites you've visited yesterday, last week, and sometimes months ago. But it's more than just a list. Your browser history also includes cookies and cache. These are little bits of data that websites drop into your system so that the next time you visit, the site loads faster. It remembers you. It's supposed to be helpful, but over time, if you never clear it, your browser gets sluggish. It starts glitching. You're trying to load a brand new page, but it's pulling up an old, broken version of the site from 6 months ago because it's stuck in the cache. In tech, Ctrl plus H is the first step to seeing why your computer is acting weird. You check the history to see what's been running in the background. In life, we all have a history tab. It's our upbringing, our family dynamics, the way our parents handled anger, love, and chores. These are our generational cookies. Just like a computer, we often operate on cached versions of behavior. We don't think about why we get defensive when someone critiques our cooking. We just do it because that's how it was handled in our house growing up. We're loading an old page. Breaking a family cycle isn't about deleting your past. You can't delete where you came from. But hitting Ctrl plus H in your life means saying, I'm going to look at this history. I'm going to see what's taking up space, and I'm going to choose what to keep and what to clear so I can run a faster, cleaner version of myself today. Let's go deep on this. The first step to breaking a cycle is awareness. You have to actually press the keys to see the history. A few weeks ago, my 5-year-old Clara was helping me make spaghetti, and by helping, I mean she was standing on a stool, vibrating with excitement, and accidentally knocked an entire open jar of marinara onto my light gray kitchen rug. For a split second, I felt this heat rise up my neck. My immediate gut-level reaction was to yell, not just a whoops, but a loud, frustrated exclamation about how we can't have nice things, and why weren't you paying attention? And I stopped, because in that split second, I saw the History tab pop up. I remember being 7 years old and spilling juice, and the atmosphere in the room changing from fun to fear in a heartbeat. That was the script I inherited. Mistakes equal anger. I realized that if I yelled, I wasn't responding to Clara, I was just replaying a cached file from 1998. Breaking the cycle means catching that moment. I took a breath, looked at Clara, who was already looking at me with those "am I in trouble" eyes, and I said, well, the rug wanted to be red today anyway. Let's get the towels. The shift here is recognizing that your reactions are often just links in your history. When you feel a big emotion, ask yourself, is this me or is this my history? The second point is about auditing. Not everything in your history is bad. My mom taught me how to be incredibly resourceful. She could make a feast out of a half-empty pantry. That's a cookie I want to keep. It's a helpful shortcut. But then there are the hidden cookies, the stuff we don't realize we're carrying. Think about how your family handled conflict. Was it the great silence? Where no one yells but no one speaks for 3 days and the air feels like lead. Or was it the fireworks display, where everything is a scream and then it's forgotten 10 minutes later? When we don't audit our history, we bring those cookies into our adult relationships. If you grew up with the great silence and you marry someone who grew up with the fireworks display, you're going to have a major system crash. I have a friend, let's call him Mark. Mark realized he was constantly stressed about money, even though he was doing well in his career. When we talked about it, he hit Ctrl H. He realized his parents, who grew up with very little, constantly talked about the rug being pulled out. Even though Mark was safe, he was still running the scarcity.exe program. He had to manually go into his settings and say, that was their reality. It doesn't have to be mine. What are the scripts you're running? I'm not a math person. Work has to be miserable to be valid. I don't deserve to rest until everything is perfect. Look at the history. Is that your voice or is it a recording? Third point, it is exhausting to be the one who breaks the cycle. If you're the person in your family who is trying to do things differently, maybe you're going to therapy or practicing gentle parenting or setting boundaries with toxic relatives, you are essentially acting as the system administrator for the entire family line. You're the one saying, this virus stops with me. And let's be real, the rest of the network might not like it. When you change your code, the people who are still running the old version might get frustrated. They might call you too sensitive or say you've changed. I remember when I decided to stop the suck it up mentality with my kids. In my family, if you fell down, you were told to stop crying, you're fine. When my 3-year-old Lucy scrapes her knee, I sit with her, I let her cry, I validate it. I've had older relatives look at me like I'm raising a soft kid, but I'm not raising a soft kid. I'm raising a kid who knows how to process her emotions so she doesn't have to spend her 30s hitting Ctrl H to find out why she's numb. Breaking the cycle is a service to the future. It's hard work, and if you're tired, it's because what you're doing is heavy. You're rewriting the OS for the next generation. Finally, we have to talk about the Clear Browsing Data button. In your browser, you can choose to clear history from the last hour, the last 24 hours, or all time. In life, clearing the history doesn't mean forgetting, it means releasing the emotional charge. Sometimes we hold on to our parents' mistakes like a browser tab we refuse to close. We keep it open to remind ourselves why we're broken. But keeping that tab open just uses up your mental RAM. It makes you slower today. Forgiveness isn't saying what happened was okay. It's just hitting clear cache so that the past stops interfering with how your life loads in the present. You can acknowledge, my dad didn't know how to show affection, and then close the tab. You don't have to keep visiting that site every day. All right, let's get practical. How do we hit Ctrl+H in real life without getting overwhelmed? Here are 3 small steps. Number 1, identify one inherited script. This week, pay attention to your automatic reactions. When you get annoyed or stressed, ask yourself, who does this reaction belong to? If it sounds like your mom, your dad, or a grumpy uncle, just name it. Oh, that's the 1994 anger script. Just naming it takes away its power. Number 2, perform a cookie audit. Think about one positive trait you got from your family history and one you'd like to clear. Write them down. Carry the good one forward intentionally and acknowledge that the other is an old file you're trying to delete. Number 3, use the 10-second buffer. When you feel an old family pattern bubbling up, especially with your kids or your partner, give yourself 10 seconds before you speak. In that 10 seconds, imagine you're looking at the Ctrl+H screen. Ask, do I want to reload the old page or do I want to refresh? Here is your challenge for the week if you're up for it. I want you to have one correction conversation. If you catch yourself replaying a family cycle, maybe you snapped at your partner or shut down during a talk, go back to them 5 minutes later and say, hey, I realized I just reacted based on an old habit I'm trying to break. That wasn't really about you. Can we try that again? That is you manually clearing your history in real time. It's brave, it's vulnerable, and it is the fastest way to rewrite your code. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today on Shift. I know talking about family history is a bit heavy, but remember, you aren't responsible for the history that was written before you, but you are the lead developer of the history you're writing now. If this episode helped you see your History tab a little more clearly, I'd love it if you'd subscribe or share this with a friend who might be navigating their own cycle-breaking journey. Next time, we're hitting Ctrl F. We're talking about finding mindfulness in the middle of the everyday chaos. How to search for the now when your brain is stuck in the later. You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep it light, keep it real, and remember, sometimes all you need is a little shift. I'm Elliot. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.